Hello and welcome to the CJ Scott. I am C J Atemo. So delighted to have you on board today. We will be talking about romance at the workplace. It's something that I was privileged to be a part of a certain discussion somewhere else. It keeps on going on and on and on. People keep on talking about whether it should be allowed or not. Of course, there are those who will say we should not. Others will say, look, love is just love and it's a beautiful thing. And wherever you find it, you need to have it. I've got a panel right over here. Of course, you know, we call it the jury. It's already set, but the verdict always is with you. So do me a favor right now. Go ahead and share the stream, invite your friends, and make sure you engage. Let us know your thoughts. Should we have romantic relationships at the workplace? This, started up a few months ago. Is it a month or two ago? By a certain, it was an advisory. It wasn't a directive of the CS for Interior. He said, look, I don't want policemen and policewomen getting together because they end up killing each other. But we'll get to know your thoughts about that. On my father's left, I've got Jedida Wanjiku, who is Waithaka.
Yes.
Okay, whoever sent me this made that mistake. I'm sorry, my apologies. But you said you're a web consultant.
Yes, I'm a web consultant.
Yeah.
Basically, what I do is develop websites, maintain. That's my forte.
And I got to know that because, I was talking about how consultants have this jargon everywhere that they go. And then she said, I'm a consultant.
I know.
We've got Samwel Omondi. He wears many hats. So I want him to introduce the hat that he wants us to hear about today.
That sounds like a trick question. My name is Samwel Omondi, OJINO. I am a pharmacist by profession. I work for a government organization here in Nairobi. I'm also a tropical and infectious disease person, yet to leave school. And also I do strategic management consultancy.
With Citadel Strategies.
With Citadel Strategies, building effective organizations.
Those two worlds are so far apart, nearly medicine, and then on the other hand, strategy.
I think there are those things that you do because you passed exams like myself.
Okay.
And then there are those things that you discover in the path of purpose. So I'm evolving from medicine to strategic management.
Oh, right.
Yes.
And of course, next to him and smiling is somebody who is so deeply rooted in the medical world, Lyndzie Wanjiku. Doc, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
For the first time, I get the two of you on the same set.
For the second time.
For the second time?
Yes.
Yes.
And you didn't kill each other the first time? All right. Okay. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Probably you'd introduce yourself to the person who needs to know.
Okay, sure. I'm Dr. Lyndzie. I am in the medical profession, and I'm so glad to be here. Let's see what we're going to talk about and see whether we will be for it or against it.
Let me start with the two of you who are actually in the same sector. Does it work? Is it supposed to work? Is it encouraged? Is it allowed?
Does it work? Sometimes.
Okay.
Is it supposed to work? Maybe. Should it work? Is it not supposed to work at all? Well, we'll see. What do you think, Samwel?
I think it depends on a lot of things. From the perspective of the parties involved, it may work. I'm aware of so many doctor colleagues who just because of the nature of work, which springs forth from the days of medical school, they had a thing and then they end up working in the same location or in the same hospital, and they decide, okay, why not? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Because many times when people are socializing, you tend to pick your romance or to find yourself in romance because of the people that you associate with. That's your social space. But with time, as life evolves, you get into other social setups, and you begin to sometimes think that there are other options not really people you went to school with or you did internship with or you worked in the same hospital with the first 2 or 3 years. So it depends really on the persons, but I really don't think that working in the same office or the same organization has anything to do with whether the relationship is going to work or it will not work. I really don't think so.
I want to hear your thoughts, Jetty. I mean,
Okay, for me, what I think about that, it's not yes or no, black or white, black and white. So first, once we finish discussing, maybe we'll get to that point where I'll say I'm for this or against. But for what I think, we need to analyze the pros and cons, because at the end of the day, also it depends on the reason you get into that romance. Is it convenience? Is it, I don't know, love? You like each other? So, for me, okay, let me start by saying that I think it depends on the individual and your reason for getting into that romance. But from statistics and experience, I feel like most office romance never end well. I think maybe 10% do end up getting married, but most of them, it doesn't work out.
All right. And Lindsay, so both of them are talking about, and even yourself, it's something that is nearly situational. Like you cannot just come up with a blanket, what would I call it? Coming up with a blanket opinion and saying it's all wrong, it's all right. This particular case that we had a few weeks ago was probably mitigative in nature. Like he's thinking, see, these people get stressed out, both of them carry guns, so anyone is able to kill the other person. But in certain other spaces, it doesn't get to that extreme where people have to kill each other. But how objective are people at the workplace when they are dating?
I think the whole situation is actually how people handle themselves. Because I think where we are heading, or rather the relationships that we've been seeing in the recent past, have turned out to be violent, have been so aggressive. People are just not able to, leave each other amicably if it will not work. So I think the issue is just boiling down to, are we just able to, put a balance to this is a work. When we are at work, we are working and, these are the objectives of the organization, versus when we are out there and whatever we do out there is not actually supposed to come into the workplace. I think the issue is, like we say, we have the man mind and the woman mind. The woman will want to integrate everything. So because the relationship didn't work, so that means that's why you don't do this thing in the office. And then that becomes a continuation of stuff. And like men who will just open one slight box. If it's an office box, he opens that box, does the office stuff and closes it so nice and neatly without having to affect the other boxes that are in matters the relationship. So I think it's all about putting a boundary into knowing that when you're at the office, this is what we're supposed to do. When we are out, then we can sort our matters elsewhere. So it's all about, I think, in my opinion, about boundaries.
But I'm just trying to look at the situation. Even as you talk about how men respond to issues and how ladies do, I'm trying to think of a situation where this man has, well, the relationship may be going fine, or you have a certain rough patch, but then there are other people around the office as well who do not know that this person is dating Lindsay. So they're hitting on you at work, and your guy has to be there and not interfere, because somehow this they're hitting on you is also mixed up with assignments. Like you can't totally separate. So it's like, Lindsay, you have an assignment with these other guys, you're going out, and there's a way they will be throwing in their compliments and they're hitting on you, and they're just thinking they're dealing with a colleague. And so here is your guy.
I think, CJ, just to pick up from where my colleague has left, we may need to probably find out what are some of the reasons or classifications of office romances. Yeah. So there are those who do office romance, what we call compassionate office romance. So compassionate office romance is where there are two people who genuinely love one another, emotionally connected, and they are looking at a possibility of them actually consummating that relationship into a formal marriage, be it religious, be it legal, whatever threshold they use. Then there is passionate office romance. So here, you are involved with someone that you work with in the same space, but it's not for the purposes of marriage. It's simply for ego reasons, for sexual gratification, for adventure, for adrenaline. Yeah. And then you have the third category where we have utilitarian office romance. This is whereby you are in a office romance situation because of strategic reasons. So so many times the relationship is not horizontal. It is vertical. It's not lateral, it's vertical. So probably you are involved with someone because you'll get a pay rise, or you'll be considered in the next promotion, or you'll get leave frequently, or you are going to,
And that's the same thing I was saying. It depends on why you're in that romance. It will also affect the outcome. You see, like the way he's saying, if you're in it for utility, if it's for love, it affects how if it ends or it continues. But I think if big organizations, they allow the office romance. You declare, you go and maybe see the HR and say, you know what, I'm in a relationship with this person. I know if in the same department, you'll be moved. I know like even banks, they can move you to a different branch if you're serious about it. So I think the purpose of why you're getting into that matters. So,
is it very clear at the beginning? Like,
oh yeah,
do you even know whether it is
in the beginning you don't know. You don't know
So
what
you
you're
guys
in.
hijacked me and I was doing classifications.
Oh, sorry.
I did
Continue,
compassionate, I did passionate, I did utilitarian. I have two more.
Okay.
The fourth one is fleeing. Fleeing office romance is whereby it's just good it feels good to be, it feels treacherous, I just want to be with this person because the adrenaline is too much, and it's normally for ego, it's normally for sexual gratification, it's normally sometimes just to revenge on your maybe legal spouse or legitimate spouse, if you like. And then finally we have user. Office romance.
How do you separate that fleeing, user, utilitarian?
Utility, yeah, I know.
So let me repeat.
You want to repeat all of them?
Yes.
Because the utilitarian one, you say, is somebody who's probably trying to climb the ladder.
Yes, for strategic reasons.
Yeah, that's strategic reason.
Yes.
Is like being a user.
Yeah, what's the difference?
I want to interject and say, we could start as, I want to go up the ranks, and then the heart just wants what it wants. And then I started off as wanting to use you, and then with time I found out, wow, this is actually not a very bad person. Yeah. It's somebody who I actually enjoy spending my time with. Even if my initial purpose was to use them, then what happens then? Do we still go to the HR and go declare our intentions?
I think also there are many other factors that trigger what kind of romance you may want to pursue. Like you've said, sometimes someone may want to go after the boss because they want to climb up the ladder. Then, as they do it, they discover actually that this person is really nice, and I have to change my motive and slow down and try to be with them. There are those who just want to use someone because probably they know you are newly employed, you are naive maybe, or you are coming from an uncorporate background. And someone really thinks if I hit on you, for them they want to enjoy themselves with you, right. But for you think maybe the boss it's serious. It's serious.
It's serious, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Like what the CS said, I think what he was trying to address was there are senior police officers, and we are aware of these things. There are senior police officers who will never transfer a particular lady police officer, probably because some policemen will even tell you that's the girlfriend of the OCPD or that's the girlfriend of the OCS, and never goes. And
that's true in every other sector, yes, and in every other organization, right? But even as we talk about the thing of, Jedi, you've talked about, most organizations, or rather certain organizations,
especially big organizations,
they will say it's okay.
Yeah, they allow that. Yeah.
But now this aspect of, so I have to transfer Lindsay to another branch because we already have Samwel on this branch. We are creating quite a number of things as well. We're creating issues right over there because we have to either create a position, another branch, or transfer somebody from that branch who was very effective to bring them back here, and maybe they will not find the position on this side. For example, let me put it like this. If both Lyndzie and Samwel were nearly at par in terms of their duties, then one has to be transferred. So there's somebody who's very effective on the other side in a branch. They're running that by themselves. They've done very well. So maybe they need to come back over here. One, probably they cannot work with him. Yeah. Two, maybe they won't have the sense of autonomy that they had on the other side. Yeah. Isn't it now affecting the performance of somebody else because two people decided to fall in love?
But like, I wonder, a whole big organization, they have such policies. They must have had experts advising, like coming up with those policies. So for them to do that, okay, that's my thinking. For them to do that, it means that they've thought it through. And I feel like, I don't know, love is more important than,
I think Sage,
like the job. So
there are organizations that have certain HR policies. Some organizations will, because of the nature of work, it will require you to declare if you are romantically involved with certain people within the organization. A very good example is, for example, the Central Intelligence Agency, the Mossad, and many other intelligence organizations. You will have to declare you have to declare your intimate partner, whether the person is within the organization or not. But many times, especially in this part of Africa, we don't have organizations that have HR policies on issues to do with office romance. So I think for those organizations that have the policies, it's incumbent on them to let the employees know that if this is our policy, that if you're romantically involved with someone for whatever reason, it is company policy that you're supposed to declare the same. Some people...
What if you declare, look at from where I said, so you declare that I'm in a relationship with Jedi, and you didn't know that the boss was after Jedi.
It's company policy.
But you see this policy, doc, then there's still a way somebody can go around policy to make it untenable for you to remain there. Don't you think that even when you put it as policy, somebody could still feel not very safe to let you know that they're relating with somebody else, especially when they think that probably you're also interested?
I think every organization has a mission and objectives, like Doc said.
Yeah.
And at the space of work, I think the most important thing is to get the work done. The other things of organizational politics, and if you declare that you're dating someone, you are likely to be transferred or lose your job. I don't think really that's where the focus should be. The focus should be what's the HR policy on people who are romantically involved. They may not have to declare to everyone. The policy could say probably you have to sign some sort of thing, or you have to alert the HR in writing.
And I think it's just, you just declare to the HR. I think no one else needs to know per se, unless now you decide to come out in public. So I guess it's just the one person, not even your boss will know. It's just the HR.
There is a some sort of reporting line.
Yeah.
I know somebody who they were working in the same bank, and then they said they fell in love. So one person had to leave. They just went, because the new company policy is you really cannot have an intimate partner or a spouse within this organization. So they said, I'm in love with this particular person and I'm tendering my resignation. So that she remains, and she went to start a consultancy.
But I want to ask a question. Why do you think the company is actually bringing in these policies? Is it that we're not able to govern ourselves? Is it that we're not able to? Why do we need the HR to come and help you, teach you how to organize your life in matters, romantic love?
I think...
and actually, what's the point of declaring? Because once the HR knows, is it not to, if you're in the same department, they move you? What's exactly the point?
That's why I'm sitting here to get the answers from this side. Because
I think, Sage, the issue is people who are romantically involved. A lot of things can happen in that space, which can go to the extent of affecting the brand of the organization, or or
and the performance of
and
the people.
performance.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think for those organizations who say you have to declare, probably they have assessed that that kind of relationship may affect certain aspects of performance. And so you have to declare so that they determine whether you will continue working in the same department or branch or whichever other place you co-share the work. If, in the opinion of the organization, that the relationship may affect performance. Because people break up, sometimes marriages fail, sometimes people get into disputes, and it can go all the way back. It can come all the way back to the company.
And that's the other question. Like sometimes two people will agree that we really want to be with each other, so one of us is going to quit because the organization does not allow for two people to be involved. Then I decide, you stay, let me get out. I sacrifice my place and I say, let me get out. Let me go and try and set up, like the guy you talked about, set up a consultancy.
Yeah.
While I'm still struggling to set up this, we've broken up.
Yes.
The other person is now involved with somebody else.
Within the organization.
Remember, we both fought our way into this space of employment. So when we were coming there, we didn't come as a couple. We came in based on our own credentials. So I'm thinking, why am I leaving this place for you? And I'm not sure that you're staying with me all through.
But you already made the decision to leave, so
yes,
you
that's
live with it.
exactly what
Yeah.
now. Then my question is, don't you think that it complicates this whole issue too much? Even if you have to give up for somebody else, and then you'll be thinking after a month or 2, 3 months down the line, that I actually left the job because of her, because I thought we had a future. And then she's dating somebody else, we've broken up. Don't you think that that would make it very difficult for people who want to make those sacrifices to do so?
I think, okay, go ahead.
But remember, Sage, life is a risk.
Even any other relationship, you take risks. Even
So,
in
so
other
what should you risk
I
between
think-
a relationship
I think
and
Chris,
your money?
it comes to individual, as I said, because at the end of the day, it's either my job or this person. So it's you're the one who makes that decision, and you have to live with it.
I think, Chris,
Would you sacrifice your career for love?
it's an issue of relationship mechanics. Let me explain.
You just have to be technical
Not
with
really.
it.
Not really. You see, it's like saying, so she works at Kenyatta, and then I come to Kenyatta, and then I have a thing for her, and then, we have a thing for each other, and then we move in together, and then, it can't work, then you have to move out. I really think before you make the decision of moving out, you should do first things first. You may have to manage the relationship in such a way until that it is, for our context, let me just say it is a legal relationship, like it's a marriage, whether you did a wedding or you did a civil thing or a traditional one, yeah? So that when you make the decision of moving out, it is centered on the fact that the relationship has already been established or institutionalized, if you like. But now if you're dating someone, 3 months into the dating and the love is too much and you're like, babe, you know what? We have to declare, and so I have to leave. Then when you leave, you actually create space for babe supervisor to come in. And then
actually
like,
supervise.
whoa, I thought I had met Mama and Kumba is margarine.
Anyway, so for me, can we look at the pros of office romance? I'd say maybe the first is, I don't know, this person, you spend with them so much, like 8 to 5. You see them all the time. So, you have your person with you throughout the day, but also, are you able to separate the way
So what's the pro there? Is it the fact that they're within your space, so you can monitor them, or you're with them?
Yeah, you can monitor, which is also a con because you won't concentrate at work. You'll just be like, what this person? He's talking to that lady, So
But
it can
that-
affect performance as well. which
Doesn't
is a
that
serious
depend again on personalities sometimes? Because there's some people who don't want you to be
Yeah.
all over their face the whole time. They want to come to you when they need that fresh air.
Okay,
you
so
know.
what is a pro? Like, what's an advantage?
And probably we're
Yeah.
going to, we're going to talk about that. Like, what would be the advantage in the scenario that two people are working together? What would be the advantage? I start with you, Lindsay.
I think there could be. I say could be because as well there's transparency, but to a certain extent. But that would be an advantage. Are we saving on money? Are we saving on transport? We are going to the same place every morning, so we could be saving on that. We could be, putting our minds together to be able to do the work faster, get the objectives done. But at the same time, I don't know. I really don't think that there are as many advantages that there could be disadvantages. Because I'm thinking if we are in a meeting, a staff meeting, and then you are maybe in a position where you're giving your idea, and then I will just blow up because the last night we had an issue and we didn't take care of that, and then that will just set up the environment to a totally different tangent. So.
And even when you disagree with that idea from a work perspective, right?
It can get personal very fast.
It can get like...
I think, Sej, you need to know that there is something that that proximity does to propensity to get into office romance. It is likely you are in a romantic relationship with someone in the office just because of proximity and nothing else. So, it's convenient, you see her every day or you see him every day, one person drives the other or you drive each other or you go the same route and all those kind of things. But proximity alone is not grounds for romance.
All right.
I think there are more disadvantages, like Lindsay is saying, because if you look at it from a temperamental perspective, there are people who don't want to have their spouse on their face all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, but they are
others who
let's
don't
meet
mind.
at home or let's meet somewhere else. But I think the disadvantages are more in terms of if you think about, let's say the company is downsizing or restructuring. You have to leave both of you. Both of you are hit by the restructuring, and you have to look for alternatives and so on. So I think to mitigate on many risks, if you ask me, if guys work in the same office and they would want really to nurture that relationship into something that would become more institutionalized, in this case marriage, one person has to look for a different environment so that work is separated from the relationship.
And you can imagine you've talked about the downsizing where both of you have to leave. But I'm still thinking, even if one has to leave.
Yes.
So I'm staying, I'm dealing with an HR who I feel sacked my spouse. I will be demotivated, especially if we are struggling at home. So we are struggling financially because my spouse lost a job, and I have to report every day to the same person who sacked the spouse, even if they tell me that I'm a good performer. You see, there is that emotional attachment to the other person. It compromises that space, right? In how I begin to relate with either my bosses or the other people as well. Let's talk about still. Let's try and find the the pros still. Jedi.
Pros. Okay, I also agree with them. Like when I think about it, it's.
I don't want to be the panelist. I would give you pros.
The pros are not as many.
But there are some.
Yeah,
there are some.
definitely.
Because, see, there are people, as I said before, who have earned their place. They came in there, they've worked their way up, they got this job, they're working with you, you get into a relationship, you probably get married. They're right over here. They've earned their place. If we say that spouses can't work together, then it means that every time spouses are in the same space, they've got to start thinking about who leaves. And sometimes both people love their job. Both of the people are effective at their workplace. Who leaves? Isn't it victimizing somebody over a very different decision? So Isn't there something positive that you can pick out from spouses who work together?
I think when you picked the job, they brought to your attention such a HR policy, if it exists. And as you continue working for the organization, it should be stuck in your mind that the company policy does not allow spouses to work probably in the same department or the same branch or even within the same organization. So even as you begin to develop fondness for someone, you should have that in view, and that the company has things it will do in the case you declare you are in a relationship with someone, or in the case they actually discover that you are romantically involved and you never declared according to company policy. Because again, there are people, when that is discovered, you will be told you're in breach of your agreement, and probably both of you have to leave. So I think it depends on the organization. But again, to talk about the pros, there's only one pro, if you ask me, that you are with your spouse all the time.
Which is proximity.
And so the likelihood, there are spouses who will tell you, I've gone to work, but they have gone to see a girlfriend. But that will not happen in this particular case, because you normally see him across on the other side because you're working. So it may work on, on transparency and.
Which also, to that point, is kind of a disadvantage in the sense we are saying that I see you, basically I monitor you, I may not be able to concentrate with my work because I'm checking you every, especially for women, checking your every move, like the way I'm saying, like what, even he could be teamed up with some, they're teamed up, it's work, but I'm like, look at the body language, such, it affects your performance.
I still have a problem with this policy. How many people are we going to have to sacrifice to be leaving their job every time that they get into a relationship? Because say I get into a relationship with this person, they sacrifice their job, then it doesn't work. I am still in the organization. I get involved with somebody else again in the organization. It still doesn't work. So how many people are we going to lose that are actually assets for the organization in the name of love? Do you really think that this is the best policy to have in the workplace?
I think we have also assumed that one of the actions an organization will take when you declare that you're in a relationship is to terminate employment of one of you.
No, we said they could move department, which is what they do most.
Some organizations can even can propose cancelling. That you guys, you need to be cancelled on how to be a couple at work. Some others will have to say, now you really have, okay, fine, none of you is losing your job, but you have to change for the sake of the company. So I really don't think it's really discriminative, because the company has a purpose of continuing to make money for its shareholders. And anything that may interfere with the process of doing that should be dealt with. So just know which organization you are getting into and know their policies. And it's like getting into the police force. You can't be unionized, and it's not illegitimate.
So let's talk about those who are actually in that space, and they need to strengthen their relationship, or they need to work around their work dynamics. They're in the space where that is allowed, it's accepted, or there are even some people who, decided to start their own companies together, so they're working. It's a bit of a different dynamic, but they still work together. Let's talk about those kind of people. How do you separate the issues from the issues at home and the issues at work? For example, what Jerry mentioned, we could have been not talking for a whole week, but when we come to work, I see your body language with other people, you are so okay. Then when we go back home, you switch into that silent mode. You come back to work, you are so alive. You're not even trying to date anybody, but for work's sake, you need to be that energetic person. The other person is sitting over there and thinking, so why are you not talking to me? And you seem to be so okay in the workspace. And they get even more resentful of you, and it aggravates the situation. How are people supposed to separate these things? Let me start with you, Jedi.
To separate, I think it's more of, I wish I could say training, but it's sitting and talk. The same way in a normal relationship, they say you communicate and talk. So you just sit and agree on that, because as human beings, especially women, we are carried by emotions. So you sit at home and agree, let's try and separate maybe work and, it's hard to exactly separate, but when you're at work, let's try and keep it professional. At home, let's, yeah. So
What would be
basically
the
it's talking and
definition of
communication.
professional?
I think, Sage, when you dive into a pool, you shouldn't be surprised that you got wet. What I'm trying to say is that when you make a choice, you should be ready for the consequences of that choice.
Yeah.
You should know that if you are going to work with your spouse, probably you are running a consultancy or a company together as co-founders or directors, but you're also running another institution, which is personal, and that's the marriage. You should know that there are certain happenings in the marriage that may spill over to the profession or to the business or to the company if you're not skilled in how to navigate around it. So I have met people who prefer not to co-found or to run a business together with their spouse just for the sake of their marriage, because they have seen they may not be able to maneuver through the dynamics.
And it does not mean that their marriage is weak.
It doesn't mean that their marriage is weak.
There shouldn't be that pressure,
they
right?
just decide to protect one institution. There are those who have run businesses with their spouses, then businesses got problems and you got lawsuits and probably the company closed. And now the person who is supposed to be the other's comforter or partner or emotional support, both of you are wounded or both of you are affected. So I think it requires a lot of skill to be able to separate personal and professional. The other day I saw on Twitter that Bill and Melinda divorced, but they said in their co-statement that they're still going to work together at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I think it takes a lot of skill to be able to separate personal matters and professional matters. And there are coaches and there are institutions that can heighten that kind of professionalism so that you don't spill personal issues into the workspace.
You see, and we just have like a minute or so, but Lyndzie, so there's so much pressure today because nearly every young couple has a YouTube channel that they need to, show out there how they're doing things together, how they're living very well together. It seems like, for you to stay together, you must nearly be together at all times. So it would look like it's very attractive to work at the same place. Sam has talked about the issue of maybe the company collapsing. But sometimes it's the marriage that is collapsing.
Yes.
Then you have built this enterprise. So now, for the sake of the public, you have to keep on keeping this enterprise out here because the marriage has collapsed, but you have built another institution out of that marriage that needs to survive. Does it also mean that if I am not with my spouse in every space, our marriage is weak?
No, it doesn't. And I think it also calls for a lot of maturity because human beings, we are relational. Even if it's not a romantic relationship, it is a peer-peer relationship. All relationships need maturity. And so there needs to be a mature way of handling any crisis. And that you'd get into now, how do you actually communicate? How do you solve your conflict? How do you resolve your issues? How do you display, maturity, even when you know that at the workplace it is actually, at home it is crumbling. Right. So I think it just boils down to maturity, because we really need to be mature to be able to, either separate amicably or try to work on our, marriage, relationship, or friendship, in a mature way. So I think it just boils down to maturity.
All right. Well, romance at the workplace. Of course, we didn't come to a conclusive end about it, and that's why you have the verdict, because you've got to decide. All we do is to give you perspective, and then you have to decide, are you going to get into it? If you are in it, what's that going to cost you? Do you want to continue with that? It is all right for you. If it works, it is all right for you to go ahead and do that. And it is still all right for you to separate your work and still build your marriage independently. Don't be under any pressure on any side, either to work separately if you feel that you can work together, or to work together if you feel you can't work together. Just find what is working for the two of you and build your marriage or build your career and do that well. I'm going to take just a second from each one of them to give their final thoughts as well. I just had to bring in my thoughts, and I'll start with Jedida right over there on that camera.
I feel that, again, it boils down to the individual. And so, my point, again, you, as an individual, you decide what's priority for you. Is it, you get in that romantic relationship, at the end of the day, you decide, is the person more important than the job? And that's how you're able, some people are like, you know what, one of us has to leave work, it's okay, let us end this relationship, we both need our jobs. Or someone can sacrifice and, you know, I'll quit my job, you keep, I'll go start a business. So it boils down to the individual.
All right, Sam.
I think there is a very important place of relationship and, if you like, premarital counseling. Everything that people need to know about any situation is either in a book or someone else knows about it. So we should try to, as much as possible, to seek help in relationships, not just when you're in trouble, but you know, when you're starting and when you're about to make certain decisions, so that you don't make decisions that are non-advised and it gets you into a lot of trouble. So I think in the course of counseling, you should be able to determine whether it's good for both of you to be in the same workspace or you need to separate.
Lindsay.
All right, I'd finish by saying that personal development is very important. We live life in seasons, and so, you know, just learn to ride the wave. If it's not working, then get to know what is it you'd want to do, you know, like tackle things as per the situation. And, you know, it's never really that serious, yeah? Life is lived in seasons.
All right, life is lived in seasons. This has been CJ Scott. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, C J Atemo. Follow us on CJ Scott on Twitter, CJ Scott Official 1, CJ Scott Official on Instagram, and CJ Scott Official on Facebook as well. Until the next time, next week, we'll see you.